You've been calling it kindness, but deep down you know it's fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being rejected, fear that if you stop showing up for him, he'll finally show you what he really is. And I came here to tell you, stop being kind to men who mishandle your heart. Stop giving your softness to men who treat your spirit like a side dish. You keep showing up, praying harder, trying more, loving deeper, but sis, who's loving you back, who's praying over you while you're covering him in your midnight prayers? Let's tell the truth today. You thought your love would fix him. You thought your loyalty would transform him. You thought your kindness would wake him up, but he's not asleep. He's just comfortable taking. Comfortable disrespecting, comfortable draining everything from you while giving nothing that heals, and the worst part, you think being kind makes you holy, but hear me when I say this, God never asked you to be kind to your own detriment. You are not a doormat, you are not a therapist, you are not a shelter for broken men who don't want to heal, you are a daughter of power, a vessel of purpose, a woman of divine fire, and your kindness. It's a gift, not a requirement. Stop calling it grace when it's actually self-abandonment. Stop calling it love when it's really fear in a pretty dress. Stop calling it loyalty when it's actually you ignoring red flags painted in blood. And don't you dare feel guilty for pulling back. Don't feel bad for protecting your peace. Don't apologize for having standards that say, if you can't honor me, you can't have me. You were not created to be a placeholder in a man's life. You were created to reign, to shine, to elevate, but you cannot elevate while you're constantly shrinking to make him feel tall. You cannot rise while you're constantly laying down your worth. You cannot walk in your calling while dragging dead weight behind you. Sis, it's time to stop performing. This ain't Broadway. This ain't an audition. Your heart is not a stage, and you don't need to earn being chosen. You are already chosen. You are already enough. You are already whole. So today we stop being kind to disrespect, to manipulation, to emotional immaturity, to excuses wrapped in charm. We stop being kind to men who don't even like themselves but want access to us. We stop being kind to men who ask for our prayers but refuse to pray over us. We stop being kind to men who want our loyalty but won't offer commitment, because you are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not broken. You were just giving yourself to someone who didn't deserve you. So this is your release. This is your shift. This is your permission to stop calling weakness love and start calling yourself free. Because kindness without boundaries becomes a prison. And today I declare your release. No more soft words for hard men. No more saving who doesn't want to be saved. No more building when all he does is tear you down. It's time to rise. It's time to reign, and it's time to remember. Your kindness is not for the unworthy. Your love is not for the unready. And your peace is not for the ungrateful. Stop being kind to men who cannot carry what you carry. You've already carried enough. You've been trained to believe that kindness is a virtue, that if you just keep giving, keep loving, keep staying soft in the face of hard treatment, somehow, some way, it will turn into the love story you've prayed for. You were raised to believe that being a good woman meant being a patient one, a forgiving one, a nurturing one who never walks away, even when everything inside her is begging her to run. But what if I told you that your kindness has been used as a weapon against you? What if I told you that every time you smile through the disrespect, every time you offer grace to someone who has no intention of changing, you're not being noble, you're being used? Kindness is not a currency for love. It's not a payment plan to earn someone's loyalty or devotion. And yet, you keep giving it out like it's going to make him wake up one day and realize who you are, but he already sees you. He knows exactly how soft you are. He knows how you'll always answer the phone, always be there when he falls apart, always pray for him even when he refuses to pray for himself. And instead of honoring that softness, he uses it as a safety net. He knows you'll never leave. He knows your love doesn't come with consequences. He knows your heart is wide open and unguarded, and that's why he stays. Because you've made it too easy. You've confused sacrifice with survival. You've confused long suffering with loyalty. You've confused spiritual patience with emotional captivity. And I know you think this is what love looks like, but love without truth is manipulation. Love without accountability is enabling. Love without boundaries is self-sabotage. You're not being kind. You're being compliant, and your compliance is costing you peace, sleep, vision, and self-respect. You keep asking why he won't change, but the real question is why you keep believing he will without evidence. You've got receipts of red flags, screenshots of lies, memories of betrayal, and still you're choosing to call it love. Why? Because you think if you stop being kind, you'll become just like the women who hurt him. You think if you withhold your care, you'll be punished with loneliness. But baby, let me tell you something. The loneliness you feel while laying next to someone who doesn't see you is far greater than the solitude of healing alone. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of who you are when no one's there to validate your worth. And that fear has led you to offer love to people who were only sent to delay your destiny. You were never meant to earn someone's affection with your pain. You were never meant to prove your worth by enduring disrespect. You were never meant to become small to fit into someone's brokenness, but somewhere along the way you made pain your resume. You thought your ability to survive made you more lovable. So you stayed, you smiled through tears, you kept cooking dinner after he raised his voice. You kept showing up after he disappeared for days. You kept praying for him while losing sleep over the very things you were praying about. And now you're exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually. You're tired of giving yourself away in pieces and being thanked with silence. You're tired of explaining your worth to someone who's committed to misunderstanding it. You're tired of pretending this is what love looks like when deep down it feels like punishment. But the truth is, it was never your job to heal him. You were never assigned to be his therapist. You were never called to be the reason he changes. That's God's job, that's his journey, that's his choice. And the moment you stop trying to force transformation through kindness is the moment you finally get your power back. Because kindness without discernment is dangerous. Kindness without boundaries becomes a leash around your purpose, and you can't keep offering light to people who are committed to living in darkness. It's not your responsibility to drag someone into healing. It's your responsibility to guard your heart, because your heart is a sacred thing, not a sacrifice. It's a well of life, not a lifeline for someone who's drowning in their own disobedience. You can love people from a distance. You can care without caring, you can forgive without staying, but you have to decide that your peace is more valuable than his comfort. You have to decide that your growth is more important than his potential. You have to decide that your kindness is a gift that no longer belongs in the hands of someone who keeps dropping it. You keep waiting for him to change so your kindness can feel justified. But sometimes the change you're praying for isn't in him, it's in you. You are the one who needs to change how you see yourself. You are the one who needs to stop believing that suffering is a sign of strength. You are the one who needs to reclaim your kindness and stop using it as a way to be chosen. Because the right one won't require you to exhaust yourself to be seen. The right one won't make you feel like love is a battle you have to fight alone. The right one will recognize your kindness and protect it, not abuse it. But first, you have to stop offering it to the wrong one. You keep telling yourself he's just going through something. You convince yourself that he just needs time to heal, to grow, to get himself together. And because you see the potential in him, you believe it's your job to wait, to help, to carry the broken pieces of who he is until he figures out how to become whole. But broken men don't deserve whole women. Not because they're not human, not because they're not worthy of love, but because they've made a choice to stay broken while expecting you to bleed for their healing. And you've made a choice to believe that if you give more, stay longer, pray harder, somehow you'll be enough to rescue him from himself. You've convinced yourself that love means restoration, even when the only one being drained is you. You were never meant to be the rehab center for his wounds. You were never meant to be the emotional dumping ground for everything he refuses to face. You were never meant to sacrifice your mental, emotional, and spiritual safety so he could feel secure in his dysfunction. You saw the red flags, but you also saw the little boy in him, the one who was hurt, the one who was abandoned, the one who never felt safe. So you gave him your compassion, your nurturing, your strength, thinking that if you could love him right, he would become the man you hoped he could be. But loving someone out of their brokenness only works when they want to be free, and he doesn't. Because if he did, he would have sought healing before seeking you. He would have made peace with his past before asking you to build a future. Instead, he handed you his pain and called it love. He made you responsible for the pieces of himself he refuses to pick up. He placed the burden of his growth on your shoulders and told you that if you walk away, you never really loved him. But that's not love. That's manipulation wearing a mask of vulnerability. That's control dressed up as connection. And you've bought into it because you've confused purpose with punishment. You were never sent to fix him. You were sent to grow, to thrive, to carry the fullness of your calling. And the truth is, you can't carry your purpose and his pain at the same time. You can't keep dragging him into healing while he keeps pulling you into chaos. You can't keep building a life with someone who's still building a cage out of his past. Every time you clean up his mess, you're delaying your mission. Every time you ignore your needs to accommodate his emotional instability, you're silencing your voice. Every time you give him another chance while he gives you the same behavior, you're choosing his brokenness over your own wholeness, and that cycle doesn't end with love. It ends with resentment, with bitterness, with a woman who no longer recognizes herself because she poured so much into someone who never planned to pour back. You're not crazy for loving deeply. You're not wrong for wanting to believe the best. But you've got to ask yourself, at what cost? Because the price you're paying isn't just sleepless nights and empty prayers. It's your peace. It's your clarity. It's your destiny. And somewhere in the middle of trying to be everything for a man who gives you nothing but excuses, you've forgotten that you deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. You deserve to be pursued, not pacified. You deserve to be loved in a way that doesn't require you to abandon yourself in the process. But as long as you keep showing up for the broken man who refuses to heal, you'll keep shrinking to fit into spaces you were never designed to stay in. There's a difference between support and self-sacrifice. There's a difference between patience and pain. There's a difference between staying loyal and staying stuck. And if he wanted to be better, he would be. If he respected your presence, he'd rise to meet your standards. If he loved you the way you love him, he wouldn't put you in a position where you have to constantly beg for the bare minimum. But you keep waiting. Waiting for the day he changes. Waiting for the moment he becomes the man you prayed for. Waiting for the apology, the breakthrough, the transformation. But while you're waiting, your life is passing by. Your joy is withering. Your confidence is being eroded by a relationship that keeps feeding on your hope but never gives anything back. You're not helping him. You're enabling him. You're not loving him. You're losing yourself. He sees your strength. He knows you'll carry the weight. He knows you'll stay when others would have walked. And instead of honoring that, he takes advantage of it. He drains it. He uses your love as a shield to avoid accountability. And deep down, you know it. You feel it every time you cry alone, every time you question your worth, every time you lower your voice, your needs, your boundaries just to keep the peace. But real love doesn't require silence. Real love doesn't thrive in imbalance. Real love doesn't break you to build him. You're not hard to love. You're just loving someone who's committed to staying broken. And it's not your job to convince him to change. It's your job to honor the woman who's been showing up even when she's been overlooked. It's your job to protect your heart from being handled by hands that don't know how to hold it. It's your job to stop believing that your wholeness belongs in a place that only knows how to worship dysfunction. There's something powerful about a woman who finally sees clearly. When the fog of confusion starts to lift, when the weight of pretending starts to suffocate, when the silence she's been swallowing turns into a roar she can no longer ignore, something begins to shift. Not in the man, not in the relationship, but in her. There comes a moment when the eyes of your soul open and you realize that you've been calling pain passion and labeling dysfunction as love. You've been investing in a connection that only exists when you're the one doing the reaching, doing the fixing, doing the saving. And somehow you convinced yourself that if you just love him better, if you just show him what real love looks like, if you just hold on long enough, it will all be worth it. But what happens when the better you love, the worse you're treated? What happens when your love becomes a mirror, only showing him everything he refuses to deal with while showing you the truth you don't want to face? He doesn't value your kindness, he benefits from it. There's a difference. Kindness, when placed in the hands of someone who honors it, becomes a bridge to deeper intimacy, safety, and trust. But when given to someone who lacks maturity, accountability, and vision, kindness becomes currency for manipulation. He knows you'll always answer. He knows you'll take him back. He knows you'll pray, forgive, pour out, and never expect much in return. And because you've made it so easy for him to come and go, you've taught him that your love requires no responsibility. He doesn't have to grow. He doesn't have to lead. He doesn't have to protect or pursue. He just has to show up when he feels like it, and you'll be right there, faithful, loyal, understanding, and you think that's strength. You think that makes you a real woman, a godly woman, a woman of grace. But what if grace without discernment becomes your prison? What if kindness without boundaries becomes your burden? What if the only reason he's still in your life is because you haven't learned to say no without feeling guilty? You've tied your value to how much you can endure. You've made your worth dependent on how well you can carry other people's chaos. But carrying chaos doesn't make you holy. It makes you heavy, and you're walking around with this weight, this sadness, this silent disappointment because you've wrapped your entire identity around saving a man who never asked to be saved, who doesn't want to be saved, who only wants to be served. He doesn't see you as a partner. He sees you as a place to rest until he finds what he really wants. And I know that's a hard truth to swallow, but your healing begins with honesty. Not the kind of honesty you speak out loud, but the kind you whisper to yourself at night when the silence becomes too loud and your spirit can no longer pretend. You know what this is. You know it's not love. You know you're shrinking. You know you're suffering, but you're afraid that if you let go, you'll be empty. But let me tell you something. Emptiness is not the enemy. Emptiness is the beginning of clarity. Emptiness is the place where healing can finally fill the space where pain once lived. Emptiness is where God can speak louder than the lies you've been believing. You're not meant to be a martyr for a relationship that doesn't feed you. You're not designed to be drained by the very person who claims to love you. You are a whole woman, a woman with vision, depth, power, and promise. And the moment you stop giving your light to people who choose darkness is the moment your life starts to shift. You don't owe him another chance. You don't owe him another explanation. You don't owe him your softness when he's proven that he doesn't know how to protect it. This is not about being bitter. This is not about being angry. This is about being wise. This is about learning to discern between a man who is wounded and willing and a man who is damaged and dangerous. This is about protecting your destiny from distractions that come dressed in desire. This is about finally choosing you, not the version of you that bends and breaks to be loved. Not the version of you that smiles through pain and calls it patience. Not the version of you that lowers her standards just to keep the peace. But the real you, the bold you, the healed you, the you who knows her worth even when no one else affirms it. You can't keep calling him potential when he's showing you patterns. You can't keep praying for what God has already shown you isn't his best. You can't keep sacrificing your joy for a man who sacrifices nothing to keep you. Love is not supposed to hurt like this. It's not supposed to confuse you, drain you, make you question your beauty or your brilliance. It's supposed to reflect God's heart, not shatter yours. But as long as you keep entertaining what doesn't align with who you truly are, you'll keep missing the love that was meant for the real version of you. Not the version you became to keep him, not the version you pretend to be to feel needed, the real version, the one who is no longer afraid to be alone, the one who is no longer afraid to walk away, the one who is no longer afraid to stop being kind to men who mishandle her value. There's a silence that settles in a woman's soul after she's been ignored too long, lied to too often, and loved too little. It's not the silence of peace, it's the silence of awakening. The kind that grows in the quiet corners of her mind when she finally stops trying to fix what keeps breaking her. You see, there comes a time when a woman gets tired, not just physically tired, but tired in her spirit. Tired of being the one who always understands, always forgives, always sacrifices. Tired of bending herself in half to make a man feel whole. Tired of being the soft place for someone who only shows up when it's convenient. She's tired of hearing "I'm trying" when his actions say otherwise. Tired of watching him give the best of himself to everyone else while she receives the leftovers. She's tired of being the anchor that keeps him from drifting while he lets her drown silently, and this tiredness, It's not weakness. It's clarity. It's the realization that she has been investing her energy, her beauty, her wisdom, and her strength into a man who doesn't see her as a priority. It's the knowing that she's been doing emotional labor for two, showing up for someone who barely notices when she starts fading. She laughs at his jokes, lifts his ego, holds him down, covers him in prayer, and still he treats her like an option. Still, he disappears when she needs him most. Still, he leaves her to face the hard moments alone, only to return when it suits him, acting like nothing happened, and she let it happen. Not because she's weak, not because she lacks standards, but because somewhere deep inside, she believed that loving him was her assignment. She believed that being loyal would eventually make her valuable in his eyes, but what she didn't realize is that her value was never meant to be proven. It was meant to be protected. She was never meant to prove she's worthy of being loved right. She was meant to walk in a love that sees her, covers her, chooses her without conditions. She was not created to perform for affection. But when a woman hasn't fully healed, she mistakes performing for purpose. She'll serve a man's needs before her own. She'll pour until she's empty. She'll stretch herself to accommodate his inconsistencies. She'll stay silent to keep the peace. And in doing so, she becomes a version of herself that even she doesn't recognize. The vibrant, joyful, fearless woman she used to be starts fading into someone who's just trying to hold it all together. She used to dream, she used to laugh from her belly, she used to walk with confidence, but now her energy is spent anticipating moods, avoiding arguments, and surviving emotional starvation. And here's the truth, he sees it. He knows what he's doing, he knows how far you'll go, he knows how much you'll take, and instead of rising to meet your heart, he sinks further into selfishness because your kindness has taught him there are no consequences. He knows your heart is gold, and instead of guarding it, he exploits it. Instead of matching your effort, he drains it, and still you wait. You wait for the day he wakes up and realizes who you are. You wait for the text that explains it all. You wait for the apology, the change, the transformation that never comes. But what if it's not coming because he was never meant to be your forever? What if this was only meant to teach you how to stop confusing suffering with strength? How to stop offering intimacy to someone who only brings instability. You're not hard to love. You're just offering your love to someone who doesn't know how to handle something sacred. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking someone to give what they never intended to give in the first place. You are not broken. You are not desperate. You are a woman who loves deeply, who gives fully, who believes in people, even when they don't deserve it. But now it's time to believe in yourself that way. It's time to extend that same energy toward your own healing, your own growth, your own restoration. You've been loyal to a man who's been inconsistent with your heart. Now it's time to be loyal to yourself. You don't have to harden your heart. You don't have to become bitter. You don't have to abandon your softness. But you do have to stop giving it to people who treat it like it's disposable. You have to stop showing up for someone who only sees your love as a backup plan. You have to stop giving him the version of you that's meant for someone who's prayed for a woman like you. You've spent enough time being kind to someone who takes your kindness as a guarantee. Enough time making excuses for behavior that leaves you feeling empty. Enough time playing strong while your soul breaks in silence. It's not your job to teach a grown man how to love. It's not your responsibility to carry the weight of his wounds while neglecting your own. It's not your purpose to stay in places where your spirit feels unsafe. Your softness is not weakness. Your compassion is not foolish. Your love is not something to be earned by pain. It's a gift, and a gift deserves to be honored, not exploited. A gift deserves to be opened with care, not taken for granted. A gift deserves to be cherished, not used until there's nothing left. You've walked through fire for someone who wouldn't even light a candle for you. You've begged God to make it work, hoping love would be enough to change what was never rooted in truth. But now you see that your prayers were heard, not because they changed him, but because they woke you up. You see that you don't need to lose yourself to prove that you're a good woman. You see that real love doesn't confuse, consume, or crush you. It builds you, elevates you, restores you, and anything less is not your portion. You've spent too long shrinking your light to fit inside someone else's shadow. Too long calling pain purpose. And pretending your kindness would eventually produce the love you've been craving. But this is your wake-up call. Not to be harder, but to be wiser. Not to become bitter, but to become better. You were never created to chase after someone who doesn't see you, to hold broken pieces in hands that deserve to build, to water dead soil hoping it'll grow something it never had the capacity to hold. You are not here to rescue a man from the consequences of his immaturity. You are here to rise, to reclaim your voice, to preserve your power, to stop handing out softness to men who confuse access with appreciation. Your heart is not a playground for half-grown boys. It is sacred ground for the man who is ready to honor, protect, and match your value. So stop being kind to men who mistreat your love. Stop wrapping your strength in silence to make them feel comfortable in their chaos. Stop calling it faith when it's actually fear keeping you stuck. God didn't design you to suffer in the name of loyalty. He designed you to thrive in the fullness of who you are. It's not unkind to choose yourself. It's not unloving to walk away from what drains you. This isn't about being cold. It's about finally being covered, finally being whole, finally loving you the way you kept trying to love him. Let this be the chapter where your kindness stops costing you your peace. Let this be the season you stop bleeding for someone who refuses to heal. Let this be the moment you step fully into your power and finally say, enough